All right. First, we'll have a discussion this morning on the Independent Medico-Legal Unit pushing for the implementation of the Community Policing Authority. Now, this is a framework that will create participation or your participation within the counties. It's a program that is part of the police reforms done by IMLU and other stakeholders. It's something that has been there for a long time, but the disturbing thing is that no county so far has implemented the CPA. The question is why? Why has the CPA not been implemented? Is it that we have stakeholders backpedaling? Is it that there's no political goodwill? And that's the reason why this morning we are having two guests here in studio with us to help us with this discussion. Peter Aduda first. Peter Aduda is a program manager at IMLU, that's the Independent Medico-Legal Unit. And we have Jacob Atiang, who is the head of programs, Usalama Reform Forum. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to AM Live this morning. My first question is, what is the Community Policing Authority? And I'll put that to Jacob.
Thank you very much, Ken. I think the right reference should be County Policing Authority. And County Policing Authority is a provision, as you've said, part of the police reforms that was put into the National Police Service Act 2011. And largely it is supposed to be an instrument that is helping to support implementation of community policing, as has been known in Kenya before. Yeah, and this is a very important structure that was put into the National Police Service Act, but so far, up to today, no single county has been able to establish.
And what is that difficulty?
I think there could be a number of issues, but I think the key responsibility lies with the national government, and this is actually the ministry in charge of this function is the Ministry for Interior and Coordination of National Government. And this lies squarely in the docket of Honorable Kaiseri. The challenge we have today, and we have lobbied as key stakeholders for a while, but I think one of the most difficult challenges is that without the policy guidelines being formally launched by the minister, then both the national and the county government cannot be in a position to begin to implement the CPAs, as it were, in the Act.
All right. You said so many difficulties, but I want an understanding also from Peter. Where does IMLU come in the implementation of the County Policing Authority? Where does it come in?
All right. Thanks, Ken. I think I will start by just giving the place of CPA, and in addition to what my colleague has said, and because it is fair to understand where we are coming with the CPA. If, to begin with, if you look at Article 1 of our Constitution, the Constitution that we promulgated in 2010, Article 1 of that Constitution vests all power to the people of Kenya. That is the sovereignty and the supremacy of the Constitution. Now, if you look at Article 10 of the Constitution, the principles of good governance, of course, it emphasizes the participation of people in the management of their affairs. Article 174, which actually creates a devolved government, creates a provision and it dictates that people should be involved in all matters that relate to their life and in decision-making, including issues of security. If you look at Article 238 of the Kenyan Constitution, it clearly indicates that national security will be pursued with the respect of the Constitution and in regard to human rights and democracy. Now, what then that indicates to you that CPA is properly anchored into law by philosophy and by legal terms. It is anchored into law and it adds a clear legislative framework. Now, as Independent Medico-Legal Unit, together with other organizations, we have been basically in the police reform process and basically police reform agenda for quite a number of years. And we look at CPA as a broader mechanism through which a police reform process and the benefits can accrue to the people of Kenya. And that is how an independent medical legal unit, together with other organizations which are in police reform working group, including National Transparency International, Amnesty, Kenya Human Rights, and a host of other organizations, we basically look at CPA as a mechanism through which Kenyan people can realize the benefits. Remember, we recently launched a National Torture Prevalence Survey, and one of the key highlights of that survey was that the national apparatus, including the police, basically are still leading as the key perpetrators of our violators of Kenyan rights. And so CPA creates a mechanism through which then we start to begin to see some sort of consultation, relationship building, and trust between the citizens and the security apparatus in the Kenyan country.
I know, I'll stop you there, but I want to know the place of CPA in the law, because security is a function of the national government, but you're breaking it down to participation of the citizen in the affairs and the things that affect them. But what is the place of CPA, strictly speaking, in the Kenyan law?
If I take it first, as I indicated earlier, the Kenyan law, and for that matter, the supreme law, which is the Constitution, emphasizes the participation of people in nearly everything, in what we do, and the rest of the people, or the people exercising the state power. And so, for a very long time, of course, there have been a lot of efforts towards, bringing the citizens and the community into security matters, including, if I just name a few, I mean, the community policing, the Nyumba Kumi, the vigilante, you can name some of those things. But for one reason or the other, they have not worked very well due to quite a number of factors. And so, in the interest of the people that were putting this constitution together with the Kenyan population, they found it necessary to create a mechanism through which the Kenyan people can begin to have a clear interface with the security apparatus. And therefore, when the National Police Service Act 2011 was basically crafted, it provided a provision through which Kenyans now, anchored into law, can begin to start exercising their thinking and their decision in security matters. And that's why the CPA is crafted in under subsection 41 of the National Police Service Act, so that there can, we can begin to see a closer relationship and a discussion between the Kenyan police. In any case, it is the only way through the citizens can create a mechanism through which they can begin to have their say in the security matters. And that's why if you look at the composition of the county policing authority, then you'll find that they are designated officers. By their very nature that they exist, they are members of the CPA. And that is, of course, the governor, you'll find, or representative of the governor, then the county police command, of course, the NIS, the AP commander, the National Police Service commander at the county level. Then we have 2 representatives from the county assembly. And of course, there are then other civilians, the 6 civilians, at least, the law says at least 6, which means depending on the dynamics of the county, of course, you are at liberty to see how you want to balance that, of course, in relation to what the Constitution says in Article 10, for purpose of inclusivity. But then the 6 civilians are supposed to bring that face, or to bring us different thinking in the way security matters are managed. Within the county.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me go back to Jacob. Jacob, you said there are so many difficulties. Let's make us understand why, after all these years, the CPA has not been implemented. One of the things that we're looking at is, are the stakeholders backpedaling on this? And if they are backpedaling, what is the reason? And could that reason, one of them, be the fact that security matters are very sensitive, and the government probably wants to handle it right from the top?
Thank you very much, Ken. I think, as my colleague Aduda has mentioned, this is a matter that has taken too long to be implemented. In fact, indeed, if you look at the way the act was put in place, you remember we had the first Inspector General of Police who initially had 4 years to work, 2012 to 2016, if he were to finish his term. Part of the major components of implementation of the police reforms, which were actually ongoing, was supposed to be the implementation of the county policing authority. But where we are today, there are two levels where we must understand and begin to question why, because I may not have the answer, but I know for sure that the first responsibility lies with the national government. As I had mentioned before, the minister in charge of interior and coordination of national government
and what
should be able to, there are policy guidelines that have not been launched.
Okay.
So this is a new policy. Without the policy guidelines, then you cannot be able to implement. You cannot operationalize.
Okay.
So a number of players have been asking Honorable Kaiseri since he came into office.
And Olelenku before him.
And Olelenku before him to negotiate and launch this. In fact, we had information to the extent that last month, to be precise, on 28th, there were rumors that the minister would be able to launch this, but that did not come to pass. So I think the most important thing...
Busy schedule?
I cannot
you
answer.
Cannot place
but I think we must begin to appeal, for lack of a better word, for the minister and the government to be able to facilitate. This is largely political goodwill to be able to give out the policy guidelines, so that then, once the policy guidelines are launched, then the next level is actually the Inspector General of Police would then be able to take up the responsibility of implementing. But without the guidelines, then the Inspector General of the Police is in a very delicate position.
Are these guidelines already developed?
The guidelines have been developed as
how long ago?
As long as 2 years ago.
Okay.
We have had drafts for quite a long time, and these guidelines were discussed in the cabinet. We were told reliably. So where we are now is between the minister and actually and the national government to be able to facilitate or fast track this. Once the guidelines are launched, then the next level would be the Inspector General of the Police would then be able to put in the quick mechanism of implementing. But the next level is also the county government. And the county governments, even though they are waiting for the guidelines, all the 47 counties, none of them has been able to put in place the county policing authority, as it were. But most of the counties, if you check across, this was advertised as early as 2014, 2013, because we must advertise for the positions, especially the 6 positions that my colleague Aduda was talking about, the positions that are going to be taken up by members of the public who are going to support the work of policing. So counties have done all this, applications were sent, shortlisting was done in quite a number of countries. Some counties have gone ahead to vet the possible applicants. So they are waiting for these guidelines. But once the guidelines is in place, then it's the responsibility at the second level of the governor to be able then to put in place the county policing authority in each county.
Okay.
And it is important to mention this because even as we discuss this, today we know that security is a major challenge in this country. And the county policing authority was supposed to be a very good mechanism that was going to help implementation of community policing. And we know very well that policing, as it were today, in the 21st century, is a shared responsibility between the police, other security agencies, and participation of the public. So this will be a very important mechanism, and we really want to appeal to the minister in charge of this to be able to fast track this, be able to have the guidelines, the policy guidelines launched. Then we go to the next step where we are going to talk about advocacy for the key stakeholders.
Peter, Jacob cannot say the reason why the ministry, because now we can't blame Kaiseri only, we have to go back and look at even Olelenku, but Probably you can tell us why is it so difficult for the ministry to issue the policy guidelines for this, to launch it? I mean, you have to be very candid with this conversation. Why is it difficult? Because one of the arguments I've heard is because security is a shared function, and we've had quite a lot of challenges in the security sector. They do not want to open it up. Could that be the reason from where IMLU sits? Because I know you're working with 6 counties, and none of these counties has even operationalized this. So where is the difficulty from where you sit?
Ken, I think that is one of the difficult area to understand, because more often than not, and in many conversations, you find government inviting citizens to participate in security matters, in security affairs. In any case, when we look at the function of the governments and vis-a-vis the resources, we always say that resources are always scarce. And one way in which you can have people participate very well and ensure that security is at its best or optimum level is by involving people, and then in the long run perhaps you use less and less, because then people are participating themselves and they are able to to provide or to give some solutions to their problems. And so it is quite difficult to understand how this is getting all this long. Yet, government, in its very many efforts, you realize that that is how they would want to go. I mean, like just a couple of months ago, the Interior Ministry launched what they are called the police reform document. And the key highlights of the police reform document, one of it, of course, is organizational culture change. And that is one of the things that they want to work around between, of course, it was something that was done in 2015, but it's now, the document is supposed to be operationalized or implemented between now and 2018. And the key light is organizational culture change. And yet you see CPA as one of the mechanisms through which then you can start seeing that culture change and seeing the relationship between the citizens and the police and how the police relate with the citizens. So for me, I think it is just the issue of goodwill and constitutionalism. Because constitution and the acts that we are talking about, having them is one thing. Getting them so that people start realizing the benefits of the constitution is a different thing, and which requires the goodwill of all the players, so that we start to or begin to see that yes, this is what we anticipated, and this is actually the actual steps that we are taking to ensure that we start seeing the benefits. And in any case, security, is not something which is not a one-stop thing. And that's why even relating it to some electoral circles may not be very useful. I mean, we need to be having a long-term mechanisms through which then we start involving our people. So for me, I think it is goodwill. It is the desire to see that we start or begin to see the full benefits of our constitution, and that is living constitutionalism, so that we don't just have laws, but then we go a step higher to ensure that we are actually doing and practicing and start to seeing that benefits. That will basically respond to what my colleague was saying. One of the impediments has been the financing component of the CP, and I think that's perhaps is why like at the country level, perhaps they are a little bit slow, because
they don't know where the finance is going to come from. But before we talk about the challenges of the counties, because I know there are several, and in your mind, don't you think without the guidelines it will be difficult to implement this? But let's talk about the other benefits, apart from just the citizen participation in their security affairs down to the ground. What are some of the other benefits that you're likely to get once the CPA is implemented from the counties level?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ken. As my colleague has said, there are quite a number of benefits that the citizens would get from implementation of county policing authorities, as it were. If you look at the role of the CPA, in this country, for example, we understand that security is a national function, but each county or each parts of this country have different priorities. So one of the key things that the CPA was supposed to do was to help the national government and the National Police Service, for that matter, to be able to discuss priorities at each county, because each county has a specific priority in terms of security. There are things that are standard, but you have different priorities depending on each area. So CPS was supposed to help the office of the IG and the National Police Service and the ministry, for that matter, to be able to understand from the public what are the priorities of each county. That is number one. Number two, we have had a situation where, you know, budgeting is done at the national level, the top-down approach. The CPA was supposed to help, again, the national government to begin to understand the budget priorities of each county so that citizens are able to participate. And when they participate at that level, they are able to clearly formulate what they think should be the budget priorities for each county. And this was going to help the office of the IG so that at the end of the year, or at the end of every year, you have priorities that you are focusing on for the next financial year. So you know very well that in this particular county, in this particular part of the country, these are the priorities that as the National Police Service we should be focusing on. If you look at the strategic plan for the National Police Service, this was a very good step, and my colleague has talked about it. We have had quite a bit of positive steps in terms of implementation of policy reforms. The other thing, we have had a very low level of participation between the police and the public, and the relationship has not been very good. All the studies have revealed that the way the people relate with the security agencies is not as good as it should be. So this was also supposed to help build that confidence and provide an opportunity for the public to relate very well with the police. In developed countries, in fact, in countries that are stable, in countries where security is running well, you will realize that 80% of the work is done by the public, so that you have a very good cordial relationship between the public and the police. And remember, this was also going to help support implementation of community policing, which has been there. In fact, launched in 2004 by Honorable Mwai Kibaki, the former president of the Republic of Kenya, and John Mishuki. So we are talking about a strategy, a mechanism that if it plays, there would be a lot of benefits that is going to accrue to the public. You see now we have conflicts between certain counties. For example, we have had a lot of challenges in Baringo, you are aware. We have had a lot of challenges between Baringo and West Pokot, between West Pokot and Turkana. So the relationship between these counties in terms of security and in terms of just management of national resources, in terms of looking at conflict, if we had the county policing authorities in place, then there would be a mechanism. And this mechanism is coordinated from the local level through community policing all the way up. So you have a voice, you have a strategy, you have a mechanism to speak to the Inspector General, to speak to the National Police Service, and to speak to that cadre of security agencies who are actually charged with the responsibility of managing security in this country.
Okay. You want to add?
Yes, I want to add on top of what my colleague has clearly canvassed. You remember, if you look at the structure of the CPA, we have the county policing authority at the apex, at the county level. And then we have community policing committees at sub-county level. And then at the station, because from the sub-county, of course, then you have various police stations or police posts. We have the community policing forum. Ideally, it is at the station where you can get to know the relationship and how the service providers and the service takers are going on, or basically getting the policing services. It is where the demand and supply of policing services interact. And so CPA was designed in such a way that it was supposed to develop policing performance targets in such, and of course monitor those performances, such that at the police station where the supply and demand of the policing services are placed, you are able really to see that this is how perhaps we have been getting the reports, or within this quarter, for example, for purposes of argument, we got this report from these specific areas. And this is how we responded to, or we did the response to those specific reports that we recorded within the period. So that it is not just a matter of, talking about the crime rate, or general crime rate within an area. But there's a mechanism through which you are able now to discern very clearly that these are some of the things that we have received within this period. This is what we did within that period. Again, of course, CPA is supposed to, and just like my colleague was saying, we have a lot of dynamics within the country, and so if we cannot develop a generic, plan and a response to every other
because
place.
counties are different, challenges are different.
Exactly.
County, they're very peaceful counties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you come up or you generate something that is going to respond, in a
Across
general
the board,
fashion,
yes.
then you are not likely to address the problem.
Okay.
So CPA was essentially supposed to respond to that different
need.
uniqueness and monitor patterns of crime within the county, and especially those ones that relate to women and girls.
Okay.
Remember, those are unique groups of people, and you may want really to generate certain responses that can deal with issues that they are grappling with.
From the top of my head, this proposal is noble. Just hearing the discussions and what you have to say, it's a very noble thing. But still, it's in my mind. You've tried to answer this question, but the question that I see and people are even asking on social media is then why is it so difficult for the government to implement this? But I think it's a question we have answered. Let's take this conversation forward now. In the face of what's happening currently, and it's apparent that the key stakeholder in this is backpedaling and is slow to implement, how are we likely to do? Because just appealing is not going to make it work. How do we expect you to react going forward, especially now from Usalama Reforms? What are you likely to do? Still engage boardrooms?
Thank you very much, Ken. This is a question that is largely a shared responsibility. As my colleague has said, as institutions, we have our responsibility to negotiate with these key stakeholders and also to advocate, a lot of advocacy and push for this, because you look at it, if, for example, you don't have policy guidelines. We have had candid discussions with the Office of the Inspector General and the people who are in charge of reforms, the Directorate of Reforms, the Directorate of Community Policing, the Directorate of Internal Affairs Unit. And the challenge would be, if you don't have those policies, then each person would be able to want to implement things in their own way. So the policy is largely going to standardize the implementation. But I think that is the debate we have had. The other thing that we must then begin to do is also to lobby the governors, because we cannot say that it's only the national government. We have 47 counties. Each county has a structure. There are 47 government. The governors are as what is called the Council of Governors, the COG. So we must begin to negotiate with the COG, because as Council of Governors, they have a mandate to also negotiate with the national government, so that if we have the efforts of the county government specifically pushing together with the public and negotiating with the national government, then I hope that we will be able to get this. And by the way, the strategic plan for the National Police Service is 2013-2017. We have a window between now and 2017 to 2018 when that strategic plan is going to be reviewed, and already the program document has been launched. And if you look at the key pillars of this program document, largely is about culture change, is about building the institution, is about supporting the public to participate. But some of these things are going forward, others are not going forward. Okay. As my colleague said, I also think that the national government are shying away from the opportunity or from the responsibility of resourcing, because financing is a question. The CPS are supposed to be financed directly by the national government, but through the Office of the Inspector General. But that is not the only challenge. I think also that part of the challenge we have is that probably the political class of this country does not want a structured engagement in terms of security, for the reasons that elections are around the corner. And you know very well that in most cases, we have had quite a bit of challenges around elections and around security. And if they open up the space for participation, some of them might not want this to happen because we have asked them what the problem is.
But they're not answering.
They are not answering.
Before we take a short break, I'd like to ask you, Peter, from your interactions with the Council of Governors, are they interested in this? Because it's saying lobbying. So I want to understand, if you lobby, are the counties interested in this through their executives?
I want to believe that yes, they are interested. Going by the meeting that the Council of Governors had with the President, I think 2 months ago, around 10th August, where the governmental relations meeting, which the President and the Council of Governors, through the current chair, His Excellency Peter Munya, it was clearly indicated that the CPA is an important organ in ensuring security, and especially as we go towards the 2017 elections. And they clearly indicated that there was need. And in fact, there was not that there was need. It was like they asked all the counties, because of the urgency, to fast track this process.
Okay.
And that is my belief that
they're indeed
because of that,
this.
because that was documented, I think it was beamed live in all media stations, that the President and the Council of Governors have goodwill on this process. What we are waiting to see is the reality of that statement being translated into the ground, so that we start to see that the operations and the systems are being oiled to see that CPA is in place. But I want to also indicate something on top of what my colleague was saying in regard to the composition. I think one reason perhaps that has also backpedaled this process is the boardroom was in regard to the constitution of the CPA, and especially for the 6 members, the at least 6 members that we were talking about, because other people have perhaps come to believe that these are substantive jobs, and therefore the way in which these people are supposed to be recruited, of course, normal process, they should go through some adverts, and then they are shortlisted, they are, the recruitment process, they are vetted and appointed formally. But that has, in some counties, brought a lot of attention because of interest and counter-interest and so much that has been going on. I just want to appeal to the rest of the county members and everybody who is participating in this process to appreciate that this is a voluntary position. It is not a salaried position. And in fact, the earlier we get to know that, the better, because if people go there with a different expectation, then they are not even likely to deliver to the expectation of the citizens of this country.
All right.
And finally, of course, is the role of the county assembly members as representations of the people.
I wanted to talk about that in the next break, because we still have a few minutes to discuss. But just hold your thought on the role of the county assemblies in this. This morning we are discussing the implementation of the county policing authority, the challenges they are in, and what can be done. Of course, we've discussed the benefits. But now let's discuss the role of the county assembly. Having discussed the role of the county governments, we have also understood that it cannot begin if the policy guidelines have not been issued. And that's one of the sticky areas for the stakeholders in this. So what is the role of the counties? And for this, I'll begin with Peter. What is the role of the counties in this? Where do they come in? County assemblies, rather.
Now, by their very nature, you look at the 2 layers of the government, and the county assembly mirrors the structure of the national government, where we have the executive, we have the legislature, and then we have those are the 2 organs basically at the county level. And so for the county assembly members, you look at their key roles of oversight and of course representation, then you get the question of representation here, and you begin to ask yourself how they would do it in the best interest of the people, so that the people can begin to realize or benefit from this structure that we are talking about. As the representatives of people, they should actually take the interest of the people that they represent while pushing for this operationalize of this organ. And their role here comes during the vetting, because they are supposed to be vetting the members once the Public Service Board at the county level of course, they have advertised, they have shortlisted and perhaps recruited those members. Those members are supposed to be subjected to the normal vetting process.
I'm just wondering, it's a voluntary position. Why even vetting me? Why don't you just hand it over on a silver platter for these individuals?
Because of its very nature, security, of course, is something that requires, you know, a lot of things. Because you are going to, once you are part of this organ, of course, you will be privy to quite a number of issues going out within the country. So
they need to know who they're dealing with.
Exactly. Right. Otherwise, you can end up with having with people that ideally should not even be roaming outside as members of the county authority. Okay. And of course, coming out, just like my colleague was saying, you know, coming out with priorities and monitoring trends of crime, yet ideally is the person who should be monitored in one way or the other.
Understandable.
Yes, yeah. So the county assembly members need to do due diligence while they are doing that vetting and ensure that the people that they are getting on board are actually the rest, but also do it in a bipartisan manner, because that is one of the things that have also, you know, backpedaled this process, because there are people who are also, of course, participating in the vetting process, but having a lot of interest and insisting that there are certain people that must be there, of course, for their own reasons. So that they need to do. But more important is the fact that they represent the people. And this is an organ that is created in a manner that should see people benefiting and participating in security matters, because that is not a favor. It is a requirement by the Constitution. So these representatives of the people should be doing that, and we should be seeing them doing that. And I'm appealing to the Kenyans outside there, the citizens, to start making a serious follow-up on their members of their countries and questioning their role and how they are participating in this process.
All right. I'd like to end this, but before we end, let me take it to Jacob. Jacob, taking this forward, what is the likely scenario if this program that should be implemented in 2013-2017, the minister does not come out to issue the policy guidelines? What is the worst scenario here, and what is the best scenario for you?
I think the best scenario for us would be the country would benefit in terms of getting information and participation on security matters. Remember, as it were, even the law, the Constitution provides that even though the national government is in charge of security, both the national and the county government, there's a relationship. There's the level of interdependence. It means the national government, to some extent, depends on the county government and vice versa. So this is going to, the best case scenario is that the security organs would benefit a lot by what we've talked about. We are going to have targets from the county. We are going to have processes where you are monitoring implementation, but also more importantly, you are going to have priorities set, and those priorities are coming from the public. But the worst case scenario, I think, you know, we are going to lose out a lot in terms of intelligence and in terms of information that would have been useful to help this country, especially going to 2017, where beyond the election there's the security component of it. If this CPA was put in place, the country would benefit more immensely in 2017 election and beyond. And you know, when security is proper, you have stability, you have investment, you have development. So we are losing out on part of this largely because of that kind of slowing down of the process.
All right, gentlemen, I want to give you an opportunity to end this with the way forward. And I'll start with you, Peter, and then I'll give you the final. So you have a minute or so to give us a way forward with this.
My way forward is to appeal to all players in this process, the national government, particularly the Minister of Interior, the county government, of course, the both organs, to begin to appreciate the importance of citizen participation in security matters, because by and large, as my colleague has indicated, it is going to help us a lot as the country to realize all the benefits that are anticipated within the Constitution. And I also want to appeal to the media to help us in this process, and so that we start interacting and disseminating, and people beginning to appreciate even the existence, because even there are other people perhaps who are getting to know the issue of CPA for the first time, and they're wondering what this means. So I just want to appeal to the media to help us in this process.
The civic part of it. And finally.
Thank
Jacob.
you very much. I think I don't need to overemphasize the position of my colleague. I think I want to appeal to His Excellency the President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, to put in place the political goodwill to help the Minister in charge of internal security and coordination of national government, to help us launch the community policy, the policy guidelines, but also the Council of Governors, as we have talked about this. They have an opportunity between now and the next elections to be able to also negotiate this. This would be a very good platform for the county governments and for governors. Even as they go to the next elections, they would be able to share with the public part of what they have done. But also the media and the members of the public and the police reform working group, we need to lobby these people, we need to negotiate with them between now and the next 3-4 months, so that this county policing authority can be up and running. Because without this, for sure, we are impeding in the implementation of police reforms. And I know the Inspector General is really keen on this, so that we are talking about police reform that has tangible results that can be monitored, results can be seen, and the public can be able to participate in the matters of police reforms. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And of course, the Inspector General of Police, the Interior Ministry, they sit together, so they should be able to speak about this and look at the way forward. Jacob.